amazing. Hello and welcome to the 2020 FIA Gran Turismo Championships. We're back once again. It is time for the 16th round of the top 16 superstars as part of the online season. My name is Tom Brooks. Alongside me, Jimmy Broadbent here to guide you through the action. Jimmy, we're now officially past the halfway point in the season. It's been amazing so far. I think we're expecting a bit more of the same for the second half, aren't we?
All downhill from here, isn't it? Second half of the season. No, I mean, these guys are just getting started now, of course, and still a lot to play for in this championship. So really looking forward to seeing tonight's racing.
Well, lots of action to come here for you today as well in the Nations Cup and the Manufacturers Series. In the Nations Cup, we're at the Nürburgring GP circuit in the Pagani Zonda R. One-mate race there for those drivers. In terms of the Manufacturers Series, Group 4 cars at the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps, a track that needs no introduction and a car combination that is going to make things very close indeed, I am sure. So lots of action to come here for you today, which will be very exciting indeed. In terms of the Nations Cup, that's the first race to come here for you today as well. And, well, Jimmy, there are two names that kind of stick out really more than anything in the EMEA region.
Yeah, definitely. We've had kind of a new power source coming from these guys here, with Mick Hazal kind of being absent. We've had Baptiste Beauvoir, first of all. Wong Baguette F1. Big Baguette fan will tell us at pretty much every opportunity he has there. Having a fantastic drive at Suzuka and taking the victory there pretty much unopposed. And the other driver, of course, you're going to see Beauvoir fighting with now is Valerio Gallo, the Italian driver, someone who's really come up through the ranks in this season.
Really good to see Valerio Gallo fighting at the front as well. These two drivers, of course, competed in various World Tour events. Haven't really been there and thereabouts. In these top 16 Superstars races, though, they have been consistently at the front of the field. You can see a very different driving style there between those two drivers. Very much on the wheel, quite literally, for Valerio Gallo, like he's doing his shopping at Tesco. But that's not the case for his overtaking. You can see you wouldn't be doing that on the way in the car park, would you? Up the outside into Eau Rouge for Gallo, making that move on Beauvoir. Some hugely impressive performances from both of those drivers to now sit first and second in the standings. Beauvoir just ahead of Valerio Gallo by the smallest margin in terms of points. And if you look at the stats there, Jimmy, I mean, they speak for themselves. Look how close they are.
Doesn't really get much closer than that, to be honest, does it? Pretty much one way for Beauvoir, you know, best wins, and of course then we have total poles 6 for Gallo. These guys are pretty much neck and neck, although at the moment Beauvoir slightly ahead on points, but I'm sure he's very much looking over his shoulder now and knows that Gallo is a real threat.
I'm really looking forward to seeing how these drivers are going to get on over the course of the remaining rounds in the 2020 season. One other driver we need to mention as well in the present is Carlos Salazar. He has been so impressive this year, and you caught up with him a little bit earlier on, Jimmy, as well.
Yeah, it was great to catch up with Carlos earlier on. He was showing me around the Nürburgring GP circuit in the Zonda R, of course, our race for Nations Cup tonight. Check it out. I've got Carlos Salazar with me right now, and he's about to school me here at the Nürburgring GP circuit in the Zonda R in preparation for the upcoming Nations Cup race.
Oh,
yes, it was on. Oh,
no overtake.
There you go, completely fair overtake that was.
Like I
was looking call that a block pass in karting.
another diving bomb there, but
yeah, well, that was my plan. Get you talking, then just send it up the inside. Matt, how are you feeling in terms of preparation for this race here? Of course, we're going to be racing here later on in the Nations Cup. How you feeling about it? I mean, you're looking pretty quick already, even on that hard compound tyre. Oh no!
Oh no, almost. Yeah, but this car I think is a tricky one because it has understeer and it has oversteer like a lot.
You know what? I can't have this. I can't have you win this, mate. Oh, he's been, okay. Now we're going into race mode now. Soft tyres! No, don't you dare! Don't you dare! Don't you dare! Don't you dare! Where is he? There you go. A fair victory that was. A fair victory on the soft compound tyres there. But yeah, Carlos, mate, that was a lot of fun. I tell you what, Tom, Carlos was such a good sport. I think I punted him 2 or 3 times in that video. I mean, he was just having a laugh of it. A little bit of a tidbit, by the way, about his PSN ID. Was it PCMSSTJ? Or
So yeah, it is that. Yeah.
Yeah, and basically, every letter of that stands for the first name of a member of his family because it's a shared PS4 system, which I think is kind of cute, actually.
So if you see him competing in reverse, it might be like his younger brother or something.
Yeah, his dad's getting on there.
Well, goodness me. Good to hear from Carlos Salazar, a driver who we're sure is going to be a star of the future. Anyway, over to the circuit we're going to be competing on here today. It's the Nürburgring GP layout, a track that's been on the Formula 1 calendar kind of on and off really since 1984. A circuit that's very tight and twisty in some elements, 5.1 kilometres long. Very few overtaking opportunities here, Jimmy, so it's going to reward the brave. And where do you think we're going to see the big moves being made?
Probably down at T7 or at T1. Of course, T1 is a long straight down to a hairpin, and if you're good in the brakes, you can easily make up a place there, especially on the first lap when everyone's still bunched together. Penalty zone is just on before the Dunlop corner, down at the bottom of the course there. 56.7 metres elevation change, a circuit we all love.
So let's go then to the grid, shall we? It's time for the Nations Cup race of the top 16 superstars for the EMEA region. The drivers have just qualified. They're all lined up on the grid. And here is how they line up. Giorgio Mangano, the Italian, starts from pole position. Alongside him is his fellow countryman Valerio Gallo, a stonker of a lap right at the very end of that qualifying session. The Hungarian driver, Adam Sapai, just a tenth of a second back in 3rd position on the grid. Alongside him, Baptiste Beauvoir, the Frenchman, in P4. Keep an eye out for him. P5, Marcin Swiderek, the Polish driver. Very quick indeed, just 0.3 of a second slower than the best time in that session. Manuel Rodriguez lines up in P6. 7th position on the grid, Thomas Skabilia, again a driver who has been in very good form as of late. Alongside him is Koke Lopez, the Spaniard, who will be looking to make some progress from 8th position. Kieran Blacklock lines up in 9th place. And completing the top 10, Carlos Salazar, the Portuguese driver who we heard from a few moments ago. Marcus Condon is in P11. And alongside him is Jones in 12th position. Looking a little bit further down the order, Francis McGinn lines up in P13. Very distinctive Falcon livery on his car. With Jean Dinant, the Frenchman, in P14. The final row of the grid, making his debut, is FRT Catfish in 15th position. So, Jimmy, soft and medium tyres available for these drivers. What are we thinking?
Well, the majority going for that fast start at the head of the grid, though, as we kind of used to see with this tyre compound at the moment. I've got to say, all Italian front row, Mangano and Gallo there, of course, both Williams eSports drivers. And on that, I'd say our hot pick for the race, Tom, I think Valerio Gallo's got to be. He's on a bit of a roll at the moment.
Has to be, yeah. Valerio Gallo, a very fast driver, as we know, on his day. As we saw, of course, close at the top of the timing sheet as well. He actually qualified ahead of his nearest championship rival of Baptiste Beauvoir, who lines up in P4. You can see the majority of drivers in the lower half of the top 10 and towards the end of the grid have all started on the medium tyres. They must do a minimum of 1 lap, then they'll probably come in and get themselves onto the soft tyres. Let's see what will happen though. Giorgio Mangano leads the field around the final corner here at the Nürburgring. Round 16 of the 2020 FIA Gran Turismo Championships top 16 superstars for the EMEA region. Here is about to get underway as Mangano leads the field over the timing line. The race is green and we are racing then. Everybody heading down towards the first corner. You can see a bit of weaving there in the background as the drivers try to get some crucial heat into their tyres before they come into the heavy braking zone of that Dunlop S. So Mangano leads the field then ahead of Gallo. Everybody taking it very cleanly there by the looks of things. It looks like Beauvoir and Swiderek were going side by side. No penalty already there for Beauvoir. So clearly a bit of contact between himself and Swiderek. They're still side by side into the following left hand of the Polish driver for Swiderick on the inside. He's through into 4th place. He's being hung out to dry really, really roughly here. Here's Beauvoir. He's down into 5th place. That's going to compound that penalty. That is a very, very bad start for a man who is fighting for the lead of this championship.
See Beauvoir there just shaking his head. He's very frustrated with that. And 2 seconds in this field, that's going to put him right at the back now, especially on that soft compound tyre, as you say. That's going to have a big impact on this championship. Meanwhile, his championship contender Valerio Gallo is right up behind his fellow countryman Giorgio Mangano, coming down to the Dunlop hairpin for the first time. Adam Taipei there in the background, coming in and almost taking the rear spoiler off Valerio Gallo's car. And you're seeing, just if you look at the left-hand side of your screen, the effect that penalty's had on Baptiste Beauvoir, all the way down to 10th place, and another penalty as well. And he's very, very upset now. I'm just watching his camera. He's not looking very happy, Tom.
I don't speak French at all, but I can guarantee there is some very colourful French language coming out of his mouth there. He looks very frustrated, as you can see at the moment. So a difficult start to the day for Baptiste Beauvoir, and I'm sure the compound of that, the converse of that, will be that the man who's in 2nd place fighting for the race lead now, Valerio Gallo, will have a grin the size of this Nürburgring circuit as he tries to harry Giorgio Mangano for the race lead. A perfect start to the race by comparison for Giorgio Mangano as they come round to complete the first lap here then at the Nordschleife. So looks like Manuel Rodriguez from 5th position is about to come into the pit lane, get himself off of those medium tyres. You'd expect the majority, if not all, of the medium runners to do exactly the same thing as they all come into the pit lane. They want to get on the soft tyres, the quicker compound here. Look at Gallo going for a dive on Giorgio Mangano down to T1. The 2 Italians side by side at the start of lap 2. Gallo on the outside, Mangano on the inside. They're going to flick it left. Mangano does hold on, but Gallo keeps the pressure very intensely on his compatriot. Gallo's still going to try and hold the long way around the outside. They're going to flick it right. If he can hold it through there, that'll be very brave indeed, but he just has to back out of it for a few moments there. Gallo versus Mangano. This is a great scrap.
Yeah, Mangano firmly closing the door there on the exit of the stadium section. It was really great to see Gallo trying to use that downforce of the car, really just throwing it around the outside, using that extra speed to have the car hunkered down to the circuit. But Mangano knows better than that. Of course, both very experienced Gran Turismo drivers here, and you expect to see that level of respect. Of course, both part of the same team too. So great to see these guys running together on circuit. So, of course, Mangano will be aware of Gallo's championship situation as well. But, of course, Mangano is he's out there for himself, as you would be too. So you're in a bit of a difficult situation there as his teammate. Do you do a Rubens and get out of the way, or do you just fight it all? So we'll see what happens.
Well, time will tell. Meanwhile, you can see the top 3 there. Adam Taipei in 3rd position, just pulling out a little bit of a gap there to Marcin Swiderick, who is in 4th place. Riding on board now with Adam Taipei, this brilliant onboard camera angle, just giving you a bit of an idea as to where Taipei is going to be looking on circuit, looking towards the apex. Hard on the brakes we go in towards that chicane. It's a very good passing opportunity there, but you've got to set it up. Look at that big dab of Oppo there. Bit of a moment for Valerio Gallo coming through that chicane. These cars, they're almost knife-edge sort of machines, Jimmy. You've got to drive them so carefully, otherwise they swap ends quite quickly.
Yeah, I drove them a bit earlier on with Carlos, of course, as you've seen by now, and they understeer and they oversteer, so it's quite scary to drive as you're trying to push it to get some decent lap time out of it. But these guys, of course, are tongue faster than I could ever be, and really showing just why these guys are the superstars. So we're looking at 3rd place right now, the Hungarian driver Adam Taipei, as we come through the stadium section. Probably the most tricky section for these cars. Lots of slow speed corners with the front end is always pushing out. Now here's Baptiste Beauvoir recovering after his 2 penalties at the start of the race. He's actually done a pretty good job. Only 2.3 seconds off the back of this little train here of his fellow countryman Thomas Gabilia in front. So if he gets a couple of good laps in, he may be able to just get onto the back of the group and maybe get back into the race again.
Tyre strategy is going to be a very interesting point in this race as well. Of course, soft and medium compound tyres available to these drivers, as we know. Everybody now running on the softer compound of tyre. Everybody who starts on the mediums getting off of those as soon as they can. They must run both compounds of tyre in this race. So what we're probably expecting are the drivers who started on the softer compound of tyre probably to come in around about lap 10 or so and then finish the race on the mediums, or they might try and run the softs for as long as they can and get themselves to the very end, going onto the final lap and then change over to the mediums. Time will tell. We'll see how it all plays out. Now here's a man who I was expecting to be a little bit further up the order. At the moment he's behind his fellow countryman Manuel Rodriguez, who is in 7th position. Coque Lopez there in 8th place. Riding on board with him now here, Jimmy. What do you make of his driving here so far, or his performance?
It's the middle of the pack so far, isn't it? Of course he did start on those medium tyres, so it's kind of hard to tell where he fits into the grand scheme of things after a pit stop. I love this camera angle. You get a great view of the quite weird and wacky and pretty fantastic interior of his Pagani Zonda. Of course, looking at that rev counter right in the centre of the dash there, on the wheel, sorry. So I wouldn't really look at that if I were you. I'd be looking a bit further ahead of me, but great to see that camera angle. Of course, now the two Spaniards joint at the hip, it seems to be come on to lap 4 at the moment. It'll be interesting to see how they deal with this. Of course, they're the lead runners on the alternative strategy to those at the front, so we haven't yet seen which strategy is superior. I think maybe the one stop is the fastest way to do things, but to keep the softs alive from here is going to be a big ask to the end of the race.
We were saying about Baptiste Beauvoir being on a charge. He's just done the fastest lap of the race, a 1:50.230. He has got the red mist descended. Here he is, running on board with the driver in 6th position, fighting, of course, for the lead of this championship. And this result could be crucial in terms of how the tables may turn. He is looking very quick indeed. He's just coming up towards the back of his fellow countryman, Thomas Scabidia, who is in 5th position, who is again doing a really reasonable job there in 5th place. Not a bad performance at all from him. And, well, it's a name that wasn't familiar to us before the start of this 2020 season, and he has been pretty consistently at the sharper end of the field, I think it's fair to say.
Yeah, definitely. You know, we always love to see new people coming in and kind of challenging the established drivers that we have here in GT Sport and our superstar races, of course. Speaking of established drivers, here is one of the most, Giorgio Mangano. Again, fun fact, I like to say that he won the first ever World Tour event back at the Nürburgring in 2018. First event I ever did with GT, so that's why I remember. It's kind of stuck in the back of my mind like that. Since then, not quite had the same success, but always been in the top half of the field. And of course here, showing why that talent still very much there for the Italian. Valerio Gallo in the background, making a bit of a mistake there actually coming over chicane, getting a little bit sideways on entry and having to slow down and have a slower exit as a result. They're giving Mangano a bit more breathing room. 1.5 seconds is the gap now to the lead. Meanwhile, first of our pit stops, or the first mistake pit stops I should say, Manuel Rodriguez and Coque Lopez still just following each other around at the moment. Of course, these guys are very close, as you kind of are when you are both from the same country at the World Tour events. They always hang out together, so good friends. So I'm sure they're just not focusing on fighting right now, just trying to catch this pack, I think, at the front of the grid.
I'd say it's so easy to overshoot your braking zone going down in towards that first corner because it dips downhill as well. And if you're just a little bit offline, you brake a few metres too late, it can really cost you very dearly indeed. And when drivers are being put under pressure, like for example Coque Lopez is putting on to Manuel Rodriguez at the moment, very easy to do so. Lopez there having a bit of a slide coming through turn 4 as well. That is going to cost him a little bit. You can see just in the background there, Kieran Blacklock, who is in P9, coming under pressure from Carlos Salazar. Jimmy was driving with him a few moments ago. Very lovely livery, I have to say, on Salazar's car. Liking the look of that. Now, a question I want to ask you, Jimmy. We often see drivers who are quick in the top 16 Superstars races, perhaps not so fast on the World Tour stage events. Why is that? What do we think that that could be down to?
Well, think about it, Tom. You know, you're used to driving in a certain setting. You've got a certain maybe routine when you get into the rig. Now, if you cup of tea to the right, yeah, you've got your dog to the left, you're cheering you on. And then you go to the World Tour event and you've got two very annoying Englishmen shouting over the top of your driving. And you've got lights on you, you've got cameras on you. I'll speak about you, mate. And it's just a different setting, and it can really throw you off. You know, some people adapt better to that than others, which is why I think you see some people perform better at home than they do at the World Tour events. Here's Carlos Salazar, by the way. I had a nice chat with him earlier. A really nice guy, Carlos. Not quite on the pace here, it seems, so far. Of course, on that alternate medium, then soft strategy. Now, here we are. This is interesting. We had our first of the soft starters coming into the pit lane. That's Gallo on lap 6. He's going back onto the soft tyre. So what that tells me is he's going to go soft tyre until probably about lap 14 or so, and then come in for that medium tyre for the last lap. He comes out just alongside Scabidia, just slots in there in 4th place. That's good for him. And of course, look, Baptiste Beauvoir. Look how much closer he is now.
Well, this is going to be interesting here for Valerio Gallo because he's come out right in traffic, which is not what you want to emerge in your pit stoppage. You can see there he's just got Marcin Schwittering in the front of him at the moment. So let's see how it's going to work out for Gallo, but he is going to have to really try and get himself ahead of the Polish driver and get himself a bit of clear air. Set some fast lap times for that strategy to pay off because, of course, he's going one stop longer than everybody else. The advantage, of course, is that he's got fresher rubber for the majority of this race. He should be significantly faster, but whether that is going to counteract the time he will lose with that extra pit stop remains to be seen. There is Gallo, just in 4th position at the moment, and like I said, he needs to get ahead of Schwittering at the moment. The thing is with these cars, of course, they're very quick. They produce a lot of downforce, so being stuck in the dirty air, especially at this circuit where it's full of a lot of medium-speed corners, it's not ideal, is it?
Not really. You're seeing right now is a medium speed corner, of course, but Gallo's done quite a good job using the fresh tyre there, definitely, just to get up alongside. Swinderick there just doesn't fight it, lets Gallo through. He knows he's on the fresher tyre at this point. There's no point burning his and losing time, so he's just done the sensible thing from his point of view and just let Gallo by. But yeah, I mean, these things do produce a bit of downforce. You can see by the big old wang on the back of that thing. So you've got to be careful following someone, but it isn't impossible to pass. So here's Baptiste Beauvoir. Of course, the penalties at the start of the race really hampering his race as a whole, but now getting onto the back of Skibidi, who's opted to come into the pit lane. And at that point, it was actually quite tricky to Beauvoir to follow him in, because he's already alongside, and he'll be able to just cut in there and take the pit lane too. So he might be the victim of an undercut here, but it needs to be a very quick lap now from Beauvoir to stay ahead of these guys.
Blue flags out there. I wonder whether that could be because of a slower run. I wonder what that's all about. Let's keep an eye out and see. So Swinderick, interestingly, goes to the medium compound of tyre, whereas Skibidi goes onto the soft. So he's going to try and do exactly the same strategy, presumably, as Valerio Gallo. There is Swinderick on the medium compound of tyre. So he's kind of all out at sea here, really. And you can see he's got a train of cars behind him. It's like watching Jarno Trulli back in the day, isn't it? Let's see how this is going to play out. Tom Skibidi, meanwhile, things haven't gone well for him coming out of that pit stop. He's got a 1 second penalty there. Whether that's due to contact or exceeding track limits, we haven't seen on your screen. But still, that is going to cost him quite dear. And that penalty zone is just coming out of turn 6, the right-hander, in just a few moments' time, down in towards turn 7. It's not where you want to be losing time. And crucially, of course, one thing to remember is that you don't just lose the second for the penalty, you also lose time getting up to speed here as well. So he could potentially fall into the clutches of Blacklock and Salazar behind.
A second feels like a very long time when you're slowing down on the racetrack, I can tell you that now. Speaking of Salazar, here he is, with Blacklock as well. They're going to be side by side for the S's. No, I think Salazar thinks better of that. You don't want to go two abreast through here. It's not really possible. Definitely one line through there, especially in these cars. We haven't used the downforce to get through the corner effectively. About halfway into this race now, and things are kind of settling into their rhythms. At the moment, some pit stops being made. We still haven't seen our top two come into the pit lane, so I wonder how much longer they're going to attempt to go on this tyre. Here's Mangano right now. What will he do? Will he come into the pit lane this lap, or will he go around again? No, he's peeling into the pit lane, so that's one lap too many. And we're going to see now how this has affected Valerio Gallo, because he's going to come by to play on the inside. I think he might have jumped both of them here. It might have been a good call for Gallo, because they're both got to come in for mediums anyway at the end of the race. So if he can be leading on track, that's definitely an advantage. Let's find out.
Beauvoir goes onto the medium competent tyre, so he's just going to do the one stop in this race. Damage limitation for Beauvoir, of course, this one is going to be as a result of his early race calamities. But Gallo now, as he said, Jimmy, leads the way here. So how is this going to play out there? Of course, he has got to make one more pit stop onto the medium compound tyre, but crucially, as does Giorgio Mangano, as does Adam Tapai as well, the drivers who were at the front of this race just a few moments ago. So now Gallo has got clear air in front of him. He's got time to just put the hammer down, drive some consistently fast laps, and this could be a beautiful strategy here. Meanwhile, it's all kicking off for second place. Look at this gaggle of cars dueling for position. That's second down to about 9th position, I make that, possibly 8th place actually, but still, that's 6 cars fighting for potentially this podium place, and Beauvoir is going to be trying to defend with all of his ounces of talent that he's got behind the wheel of that one, because he is coming under some serious pressure from Giorgio Mangano. He's on the slower compound of tyre, and we can see him on his screen at the moment there, just looking pretty calm and cool as things stand, but I imagine he is probably not feeling that behind the wheel of the car at the moment.
If we estimate that the medium tyre is about 1.3 seconds slower or so than the soft tyre over the course of a lap around here. So now Baptiste Beauvoir definitely reenacting the old school Trulli train we used to see back in F1, of course, but some of the best esports drivers in the world are now currently behind you, Baptiste. I'm sure he feels that pressure, although if you look at his camera, he looks just about as chill as he normally does. People wondering why the gap is so big between Gallo and Mangano now. I think that Mangano took the fuel he needs to finish the race as well, whereas Gallo still owes that, so we expect to see those pit stops switching around as time goes on, and you see there Beauvoir having to brake earlier on that medium compound. Mangano caught out a little bit, a tiny bit of contact between the two drivers, and it looks like now that Beauvoir has abandoned that idea and it's going to come in for the soft compounder tyre.
I expected him to do that. He's exactly right, as you say, onto the softer compound of tyre. You want to get off those as soon as you can, because it's just so much slower. 1.3 seconds, especially around here, is a week, and he was just only going to hemorrhage time more than anything. So that battle is now null and void. It now goes down to Mangano versus Skibidi for the time being for second position. Both of these drivers, of course, have made one stop, but they're on the softer compound of tyre. So The likes of Beauvoir and Swiderick, of course, have done their medium stint already in this race. They're now on the softs to the very end of that one. Everybody else who has one stopped has now got to at least make one more stop on to the medium compound of tyres, and they'll probably do that, I imagine, at the start of the final lap.
Well, this could be a good shout from Beauvoir, because bear in mind on that last lap he held up the entire train. Everyone had to run his pace on that medium tyre, so he didn't really lose any time by going onto the medium relative to those around him. The only person that would have pulled away is Valerio Gallo at the front of the field. So now he's basically got a straight fight to the end on that soft compound. If he can get by these guys, and of course bear in mind that first, second, third and fourth need to pit again, he can still get up there. It's all about this stint now for Baptiste Beauvoir.
So riding on board here with Beauvoir, the Frenchman, Carlos Salazar just missing the apex there at the hairpin, coming up in towards the Michael Schumacher S, renamed of course back in 2007 following the German driver's then retirement from Formula 1. So, Salazar, what is the Portuguese driver going to be able to do? Just having a look at the lap times, actually, difference between Salazar and Beauvoir. Of course, Beauvoir, having made a pit stop last time around, was obviously a lot slower as a result of that, but those two lapping pretty consistently within one another when they've been on the same compound of tyres. So this will be very interesting to see how it goes. Here is Beauvoir with a great exit out of that corner. He's going to be in the slipstream of Salazar. Salazar goes defensive in towards the chicane, then hard on the brakes we go. Is the Frenchman going to be able to attack? Not quite, because Salazar very firmly and very well defends his line. A great exit though again out of the corner. Here comes Beauvoir, going to dive down the inside of the final turn. Side by side we go, Frenchman versus Portuguese driver. Beauvoir on the inside line, Salazar giving him racing room. Very close between them, just a few inches separating those two drivers, and now it is side by side down the start finish straight. We can see Salazar's composure behind the wheel of the car, but he's absolutely relentless performance from Baptiste Beauvoir just allows him to hold on to sixth place, get ahead of the Portuguese driver, and now he's got a bit of clear track in front of him to put the hammer down.
So there's a comparison. Salazar looks quite chilled out despite the fact he got overtaken. Baptiste Beauvoir always just looks mildly panicked when he's driving. I think it's just his. Also, another driver that sits very close. It's seen, again, a great comparison between the two. You have, Salazar, for example, he's laid back there, nice drive position, and then you have Baptiste Beauvoir on his kitchen chair, set up, bent elbows, looking like he's very close to the thing. And whatever worked for you, man, you can laugh at them, but these guys will still, kick your butt all the way around here every lap. So here is Beauvoir. So realistically now, what can he do from here? I mean, let's look at the gaps. He's got, what, 3 seconds to Coco Lopez in front, who is a very quick driver. It'll be very difficult to catch him. And of course, Coco Lopez, Williams eSports driver versus Volocci. I wonder if he can make that gap up. But of course, Beauvoir will be wondering what could have been, really, given the penalties at the start of the race. Started 4th, down to 6th. Can you make anything else of it? 5 laps to find out.
I'm interested to see what's going to happen here, because I'm fairly sure Beauvoir owes fuel, and that could be crucial as to where he emerges out in this track. Meanwhile, speaking of owing fuel, Valerio Gallo is going to have to take some juice on board as well. 3 litres left in the tank as he comes into the pit lane then for his final stop. Hang on a minute. He's gone from the soft to the start, but of course he's run the medium in the middle stint, so he's on the softs to the end of this one, putting some fuel on board to take him to the checkered flag there. So P4 is Valerio Gallo. Where is he going to emerge on track though? There goes your race leader Giorgio Mangano. Where is Adam Tapai? There he is. This is going to be close down towards the first corner. Gallo does just hold on, but he's going to get those tyres up to temperature. Tapai will have a bit more heat underneath him, but he doesn't have an opportunity to get track position.
Yeah, no mediums, Tom. He's gone soft. I think that's a mistake. That's got to be a mistake.
Yeah, you're right. Sorry, Jimmy, I completely missed that.
For Gallo, we've seen on our live timing that he's not taking it. So what are you doing? I have no idea. You have to take the medium compounder tyre in this race. And as far as I'm concerned, he's just shot himself in the foot. That is his race pretty much done and dusted. I expected him to go pretty much to the end of the race. I don't know, it must be a mistake. Either that or a gross miscalculation.
Well, my apologies for missing that there. Valerio Gallo, disappointing for him. I mean, what's he going to do now? This is the thing. He must have known he's made that mistake. That's the thing. He's either pressed the wrong button as he's come into the pit lane, or he's doing some kind of oddball banzai strategy that we're not entirely sure about. But I can't see how that's going to work, because everybody's so closely bunched up together on the circuit. It can't have been that. It must have been an error there for Valerio Gallo, and that could potentially have cost him the race victory. Let alone that, it might cost him a chance at the podium here if he's not too careful. Meanwhile, Adam Tapai, fastest man in this race so far, 149.875 is not too far adrift. Here is Giorgio Mangano, who is going to be surely coming to the pit lane at the end of this lap here. He's on the softer compound of tyre, and he's going to hopefully not repeat his compatriot's mistake and go on to the medium compound very shortly. Indeed, does he come in at the end of this lap? No, continues on once again. So not the only thing I've got wrong in this race was the tyre strategy for Valerio Gallo. Mangano continues on. He'll probably pit towards the end of this race in the next couple of laps or so.
Yeah, we'll just have to see what happens. Again, just trying to work out what the angle is here, but I do think it's a mistake. We saw something similar, if you remember, all the way back to Paris last year with Igor Fraga. In the pit lane, made a mistake, and that cost him essentially a place in that final, which of course Nico Rubelar, Chilean driver, went on to win. But yeah, I mean, the pressure can still get you even in these events, of course. And the thing is, when you go from being someone who's maybe used to being a midfield runner to being up the top of the grid a bit more often, and the spotlight is then cast upon you, it can change. You know, it can change things. It can bring that pressure. Maybe that's what we're seeing here today. Anyway, we're going to go on board now with Manny Rodriguez, currently down in 8th position, and quite a close battle in this midfield here. Salazar, Swideric, Manuel Rodriguez. Of course, behind us is Kabilia on the medium compound tyres. He'll be, as you can see, holding up the guys behind. Manny Rodriguez, just kind of middling performance again from him. It doesn't seem to be able to break into that top 5, Tom.
No, you're right there, Jimmy, and we've seen that quite a lot from some of these competitors who just sort of sit in the midfield there and thereabouts, and that's not to do them a discredit at all. I mean, to qualify for these top 16 Superstars races is a very impressive feat in itself, and a lot of these drivers, of course, put in countless hours of practice. I was talking to Baptiste Beauvoir earlier on today, and I said to him, how much time do you put into doing this? He said, oh, about 3-4 hours a day, something like that. I said, what on earth do you like? How do you fit that around studies or working and stuff like that? He said, no, you find time. If you want to do something, you enjoy it. Of course you do, and it's a hobby, it's a passion, and that's what it is for some of these drivers. And you can see that with the performances they're putting on track here. This man here, Manny Rodriguez, doing a good job in 8th place at the moment, so just keep the pressure on to Marcin Swideric. Swideric also in turn doing a great job of just defending and not coming under too much pressure here either. So around for another tour of this Nürburgring GP circuit we go once again, ready to start the 13th lap out of 15 here. There is Carlos Salazar sitting pretty in P6. And over the timing line we go once again to Giorgio Mangano then. He leads the way. He's got to make one more stop. He owes the medium compound of tyre. He'll do that probably at the end of the 14th lap in this race. Meanwhile, the man who was fastest last time round is the driver who sits in 5th place. Who is it? Of course, it's the leader of the series, Baptiste Beauvoir. He is on a charge. That clear track in front of him has been a very welcome sight indeed.
It will be 1.7 seconds now to Coque Lopez. There's a chance he might break into 4th position here in the top 5. Of course, he actually started in 4th, so this will be perhaps some consolation if he can grab that place back. Running out of time though, we're on lap 13 of 15 as we come through the Ford curve now. We'll try and slow this thing down. These are deceptively tricky, these corners. Very easy to understeer off there. The car pushes quite a lot on exit if you manage to get it hooked up, even with the 700 plus horsepower underneath your right foot. V12 engine, of course, in the back as well. Can't think of a better combination than a Wailing V12 and an Italian supercar. As we go up now towards the Schumacher S, and again that gap coming down to Coque Lopez, 1.5 seconds now. Maybe Coque just not quite able to keep the pace over Baptiste Beauvoir.
Well, depending on what happens to Valerio Gallo here, if Beauvoir's able to get himself ahead of Coque Lopez, he could be on for a podium, couldn't he? That's the thing, and that would be cementing himself at the top of the championship, with Gallo obviously scoring fewer points.
Yeah, but we'll have to see what happens there. I mean, so Gallo, for those who are maybe unfamiliar, has to make a stop and go on to the medium compound tyre. There are 2 mandatory tyre compounds, 1 soft, 1 medium. You can be on that tyre for 1 lap, doesn't matter, but you've got to use it. And Gallo hasn't done that yet. He's gone soft, essentially, on his tyres. The next step will be the medium. And I've not seen a free stop work here yet, so I've got the feeling it's not going to work now, because all is going to happen is he's going to drop down, probably somewhere around where Coque Lopez is, depending how quick the pit stop is. But we'll see. Definitely a misjudgment if you ask me, but Gallo still has time to try and make up as much time as possible on that soft tyre. I mean, the only upside is that he is now on a fresher soft tyre than anybody around him, but it's not going to be worth the trade-off if you ask me.
More driver we haven't really mentioned in this race there so far, Thomas Scabinia down in 10th position. He's been on the medium compound of tyre for the last couple of laps or so, and it's kind of gone backwards really more than anything. He's dropped 3 positions, qualified in 7th place, now down in 10th position. It's not worked out at all for him there, and he's going to be on those tyres to the end of this race there, presumably. There he is. You can see him coming under pressure from the British driver Francis McGinn. He's in a bit of a British sandwich at the moment, so I don't know what you want to refer to that as. He's a bit of HP sauce in this British sandwich or something, but or Dijon mustard if you want to use a French expression, but still 10th place has not worked out there at all for him.
I don't know where you get the stuff from, mate.
Better than your toasted sandwich remark a few rounds ago, Jimmy.
They like that, all right? They like the sandwich remark. Okay, that was fine. Oh, man. So, yeah, Scabilia. Come on, mate. You've got to try and fend off McGinn there for the last place inside of the top 10. And, of course, the top 10 finisher, we say it every time we get to these guys, the top 10 finish in a Superstars race is a hell of an achievement. You know, I was driving around with Salazar earlier. He's in 6th place, which is pretty decent as well. I was doing the same pace as him, and I had super soft tyres and he had hards.
Yeah, weren't you like 4 seconds a lap slower or something?
3. All right.
3. All right. Okay. Oh, makes all the difference, doesn't it?
Very important. Okay, so Giorgio Mangano's in as well for his pit stop. Of course, he's not taking the tyre either. So really,
this is interesting, is it? Okay, so onto the. What about, okay, so hang on a second, we're just trying to figure this all out. So the top 3 coming in now to the medium compound tyre. Coque Lopez has...
My brain.
Yeah, I'm just trying to work it out. Coque Lopez has run the medium tyre. He started on that, of course, but this is going to be interesting to see how it all works out. So where is Beauvoir against Lopez? If he can dispose of him, this could be potentially very interesting. You can see they haven't managed to get themselves that close, but it's kind of worked out all right here for Valerio Gallo.
Okay, yeah, so apologies for that, ladies and gentlemen. I think we missed the fact that some people still own tyres. There's so many people in this race doing so many different things that sometimes you miss bits there. It looks like Gallo has somehow made that free stop work, but I can't help but wonder if he had just stayed in the medium compounder tyre and not pitted again, maybe that would have been his race. I don't really know there, but obviously I don't think I think that he didn't think he could beat Mangano in a square fight, so he tried something different, and as a result there is pretty much where he started, 2nd place, so...
You know what it is, don't you? It's the Takuma Miyazono strategy, Jimmy, as you love to refer to.
Yes.
That classic 3-stopper, you just go...
Yeah, but then people go, oh, let's just try and do it for shiggles, you know? and we'll see if we can make it work. And I don't think it has done here, but yeah, Gallo's in 2nd place. It's looking like he's not going to be able to catch Mangano, which means that this will be I think a long overdue win for Mangano if he can hold it together in these last few corners.
So then, here is Baptiste Beauvoir piling the pressure onto Coque Lopez. He's only going to have one opportunity to get himself past the Spanish driver coming through this right-hander we are. It's all going to be reliant on this exit and the run up to the chicane. Riding on board now we are with the Frenchman. It's his last opportunity to do so. Lopez knows that he is there. He tries to pull out and try to defend that line. He goes defensive in towards the chicane. Side by side we go. This is for 4th position on the final lap. Lopez on the inside, Beauvoir on the outside, very close to the chicane. Maybe a bit of contact between them and no opportunity presenting itself for Beauvoir unless he has a dive, but he doesn't. Giorgio Mangano brilliantly wins the top 16 Superstars Nations Cup race. Valerio Gallo makes it an Italian 1-2 here at the Nürburgring. Tapai finishes in 3rd. Lopez just holds off the charge of Baptiste Beauvoir at the end of that one to the line. Salazar ends up in the barrier but finishes in P6, and you can see the other drivers coming over the timing line to complete the top 10 finishers. But what a brilliant race from Giorgio Mangano.
I tell you what, we've still got our driver cams up, and Beauvoir didn't look happy in the race. Straight on the phone, I think, to text for some more speed. No, I think a bit frustrated with those penalties at the start. I can appreciate that. Sometimes you're going to pick them up a bit foolishly and maybe not intentionally. Of course, you never intentionally ram someone or touch someone like that, and that'd be frustrating for him. But to recover to 5th place and nearly be challenging for 4th, I think was still a great drive from him.
A look at the final race results. You can see Giorgio Mangano takes the win, 1.4 seconds ahead of Valerio Gallo. Tapai there in 3rd place. The other drivers coming down: Lopez, Beauvoir, Salazar, Swiderick, Rodriguez, Blacklock, McGinn, Scabilia, Jones, Connenan, Jean Denon, and FRT Catfish finishing a lap down on his debut in the top 16 Superstars. Jimmy, just quickly, who's your driver of the race in that one?
You know what? I'm actually going to give it to Beauvoir, just because, despite I think the penalties maybe being his own doing, he just got rid of it. He put it behind him and just got back out there and almost got back to where he started. I think that's a really impressive drive by my standards.
So then, the point standings in the Nations Cup after 16 rounds. Valerio Gallo, as you can see now, sits at the top of the pile, getting himself ahead of Baptiste Beauvoir. Coque Lopez there in 3rd position as well, with a very strong finish at the end of that race ahead of Giorgio Mangano. Adam Tapai now in 5th position there as well. Looking a little bit further down the order, you can see that Malky is now 3 points ahead of Carlos Salazar for 11th position. So the strong performance there from the Swede is helping him elevate up the order. So that was a look at the Gran Turismo 7 menus and interface. This is a look at it in-game. And, well, Jimmy, the first thing we need to talk about, Trial Mountain is back. Thank heavens.
It is, yeah. Oh my, I always cringe watching this game, but this driver's crazy, man.
Isn't it? It must be.
Yeah, they've got the same sort of skill set. But I tell you what, I got a lot of time for that menu, the old-style GT menus coming back in. There's a brilliant new setting here at Trial Mountain. Great to see it kind of be revisited finally.
Yeah, hugely exciting stuff. I love this tunnel section coming out, bursting into the light. It's just such a cool track. It's been slightly remodeled as well for GT7, and you can see you can still make those big old yeets up the inside, such as that Mazda is. And this, of course, is the RX Vision Gran Turismo car as well. The brand new Group 3 car, which has come to GT Sport, is going to be coming to 7. The sound of that rotary engine whirring away is a noise to behold.
Yeah, following that 917K as well. Beautiful old car, of course, steeped in history. And yeah, I can't wait, like all you guys at home, to get my hands on this.
Plenty of racing action still to come here in the top 16 superstars for the EMEA region, Jimmy.
That's right, and next race is going to be at the Spa-Francorchamps circuit in our Group 4 cars. A track which, of course, as Tom said, doesn't really need any introduction. We race it a lot here in GT Sport. It's one of the most famous circuits in the world, and for good reason. One of the most fun circuits to drive, in my opinion anyway. Just over 7 kilometres in length, split into 3 very different sectors, Tom.
Yeah, absolutely right. Corners that need no introduction. Eau Rouge, Radion, Lécum, Pouon, Blanchimont, the bus stop chicane. It is a track that is full of twists and turns, 20 adventures per lap. Corner probably is not an exciting enough word. Lots of undulation. You can see 104 metres from top to bottom there as well. It is going to be a very fun challenge for our drivers.
That's right, and I think personally that I know Spa-Francorchamps fairly well, but earlier on I tried to take on Giorgio Mangano's Ghost Lap to see how I compared. Here's how it went. So one of the cool things about GT Sport is that you can load in other people's ghosts into your time trial mode. So what I'm going to be doing today is loading in one of the fastest guys in Europe, Giorgio Mangano, his lap around Spa, and seeing how I compare as a kind of enthusiastic amateur. So let's get to it. Here we are at Spa. My car is the Mazda Atenza Group 4 car. I've got to try and set up this lap as nicely as possible. So we're going to go really wide here, last minute, and then mash the throttle and try and get as much speed across the line for this hot lap coming up. Now, as you cross the line here, you're going to notice, there you go, it's the blue Lamborghini Huracan of Giorgio Mangano, just sneaking into frame, coming down to the source. A little bit slower on the brakes there than Giorgio is. As a result, my exit is slower too, and already you can see just how kind of my line through there was far inferior, because the gap between me and Giorgio is already up to about 8-9 car lengths as we come up to Eau Rouge. It's kind of flat for both of us, so it's no big drama. Just try and keep as much traction as possible, trying to scrub the tyres too much, otherwise you end up just going wide. And now we go down the straight. Luckily for me, I think this match is a bit quicker than the Lambo in a straight line, so I get a bit of a free speed boost here, which is good for me. But already, you know, he's checking out. So braking at the curb here, same as Giorgio in front, try and bring it onto the curves through here. Now I'm front wheel drive, Giorgio is rear wheel drive and mid-engine, so our cars are slightly different in that regard. So the lines can be slightly different as well. Coming down to Rivage now, and I've done the Jimmy. I've understeered big time into there, overdone it. Now watch Giorgio through here, right on the curb, and just sends it in with complete confidence. I have no way I can do that yet with my level of practice and skill, and you see he's now just leaving me for dead as we go for Pouon, so I mess it up as well. But again, you're seeing the difference here between someone who is an esports driver, someone who practices this track to the point where they know it like the back of their hand, and someone who jumps in for a bit of a laugh every now and then. He's just absolutely killing me in this circuit, man. But now, I'm going to get the mark of shame now, I think, coming through here, because when the guy on your ghost gets too far away, the game resets the ghost to make it a bit closer to you, so you can see where it is. And there it is. Oh, the mark of shame, man. Being branded now. But even then, you see, again, the exit of Giorgio. That's the thing I think is most impressive about watching him go around, his corner exit speed. He's just carrying so much more mile per hour coming out of the corner, which just allows him to carry that speed all the way up to the next braking zone. As we go through Blanchimont there, let's see if we can get at least a decent braking zone coming into. Watch him on the curb on the right here. Watch him here, all over that curb on the inside. Almost don't want to use second gear there, but just touched the curb, really got a little bit sideways. We're going to come across the line. It's going to be actually not as fast as my previous time I set, but that's pretty much about 4 seconds slower than Giorgio there. And that just goes to show you just how talented and how quick our superstars are.
So then to the grid for the Manufacturer Series race of the EMEA Region Top 16 Superstars event for round 16 then. Well, the drivers have just qualified on pole position at Baptiste Beauvoir in the Mercedes-Benz SLS AMG. Just 4 thousandths of a second behind Thomas Scabilia. His fellow countryman makes it a French 1-2. Giorgio Mangano lines up in 3rd position on the grid in the Lamborghini Huracan. Coque Lopez in P4 in the BMW M4, looking quick and very consistent as well. Abraham Hagen lines up in P5 in the Mazda Atenza. Then 6th position on the grid, Adam Tapai, the Hungarian driver for the Ford team. 7th place, Malky, the Swede, is in the Chevrolet Corvette C7. Alongside him, Florent Pongenet, the Frenchman, is in 8th position in the Citroën. Villa, the Frenchman, lines up in the Nissan GTR in 9th position. Completing the top 10 is Valerio Gallo. Just seen him put in an impressive performance in the Nations Cup as well. Nikita Moisov, the Czech driver, is in 11th position in the Aston V8 Vantage. 12th position is Musen in the Volkswagen Scirocco. The Spaniard lines up there. Then 13th place is Dilly, the Briton, in the Mercedes-Benz in 13th. With Martin Grady, his fellow countryman, in the Audi TT. Alongside him, front-wheel drive car, of course, there. Final row of the grid, Manny Rodriguez, difficult qualifying session for him, down in 15th position, a lot of work to do. And that is how they all line up here, Jimmy.
Now guys, we have a treat for you. We have a couple of driver cams for you today, for 2 drivers. First of all, Florian Pagenet, who has opted to go for one version of raceway. He's got his bathrobe on today, which I'm not quite sure what sort of speed advantage that's going to give him. And then secondly, we have Martin Grady, who's gone full racing driver, dressing up, I think, as the Stig. It's not really done too much for his performance here, starting P14, so hopefully that can bring him something during the race, Tom.
Some say, you mean, Jimmy?
Yes, some say, yeah.
Goodness me. Well, no Mikhail Hazal here, of course, the championship leader in the EMEA region. He is busy studying at the moment, keeping himself very busy, he is as well. So here is Baptiste Beauvoir. He has got it all to do and a lot of pressure on his shoulders for Mercedes-Benz. Can he convert this into a top result? We're about to find out. 10 laps of Spa-Francorchamps here for the Manufacturers Series EMEA Region Top 16 Superstars race is about to get underway. Beauvoir will lead the field over the line as we go green here in Belgium. So Beauvoir leads the field as we head down towards La Source for the first time. Then Scabilia and Mangano in the 2 Lamborghinis line up in 2nd and 3rd position. Of course, it's a very spread out field with a rolling start there, so you shouldn't expect any moves to be made into that first corner, but it'll be interesting to see what it's like on the run up in towards the Kemmel Straight there. So Beauvoir holds off the charge. Here is Adam Tapai in 6th position. We just saw him briefly riding on board with Malky close behind, but this is where we're going to see people getting a little bit closer with the slipstream coming into effect.
Yeah, we've seen races before where the draft has really come into effect here, of course. Scabilia right now has been benefiting from that as we go up the Kemmel Straight for the first time up towards Lake Carm. Beauvoir first, Scabilia second, Mangano in 3rd. On board now the Huracan of Thomas Scabilia. When he looks to the inside, no, he's going to stay where he is for now, stay in 2nd place, and I think maybe follow Baptiste around for a little while. No point really squabbling at this point in the race, because as we know, again from earlier races, it's a bit of a high-speed chess game this. We have 2 Lamborghinis inside the top 3, Scabilia and Mangano, and Coque Lopez are just hanging on in 4th position. Now, very quickly, tyre strategy. Everyone's on the hard compounder tyre. There are no required pit stops, so it's basically a straight race from start to finish, and a bit different from what we've seen traditionally in the Manufacturers Series, but I think a bit of a welcome breath of fresh air, I reckon, Tom.
We like a sprint race, don't we? It's just absolutely pedal to the metal, I should say, rather. I'll get the words out, put my teeth back in eventually. But I am excited to see how this is going to play out. You can see Giorgio Mangano there in 3rd, riding on board now with Coque Lopez, his fellow Williams Esports teammate, in 4th position. Lamborghini versus BMW M4, 2 different cars than you can ever imagine, in towards the Fagnes chicane, and well, that BMW, a bit of a resurgence they've made, especially in Group 4 machine trim by the looks of things for that machine. It's very impressive to see Coque fighting at the sharp end of the grid as we're normally used to seeing him do so, but he could be a genuine podium contender here as they come through Stavelot. Riding on board with him still as we go, and good exit through here, could set him up quite nicely coming through into Blanchimont, so very close he is now, as you can see. Thomas Scabilia there in second position. Not a bad start there for him, has maintained his starting place. Of course, the disadvantage here for Coque Lopez is that Giorgio Mangano has got the slipstream of Scabilia in front here, so it might just stop his charge in these opening stages. But as you were alluding to, Jimmy, patience could be pretty key here in these first few laps.
Yeah, you've got the top 5 breaking away from the rest of the pack there. The Atenza of Abraham Hagen is at the back of this, probably just waiting, as you say, Tom, a bit of patience, just kind of see what happens at this point. First lap completed, Baptiste Beauvoir will lead the first lap, Scabilia second, Mangano third, Lopez fourth, Abraham Hagen in fifth, all separated by about 3 or 4 tenths each as we come down to the source for the second time. And you see Scabilia gets a bit closer through there. That Lamborghini of the mid-engine layout tends to have a good exit from some of these corners and pretty quick on the straights too. That plus the slipstream means that he's looking fairly decent going up towards Eau Rouge. Great camera angle. You see how close they get to the wall. Then we go dance to the left, then to the right over the top, then over the top of Radion. Our cameraman very busy there. You're seeing how the tyres react there. Tyre flex, of course, in GT Sport. Great to see that model. Just a very pretty thing to watch if you're a sim nerd like me. Coming up towards Lake Con there, end of Kemmel. Beauvoir goes defensive this time, sees the need to do so, but comes back to take his line, and the positions stay the same.
Malky has just moved ahead of Adam Tapai for 6th position. Looks like Moussen has got the better of Villa as well, the Frenchman. Meanwhile, here is Valerio Gallo on a charge. He was fastest in the final sector, but he's got Florent Pagenet all over his rear wing. So clearly he might have pace, but Pagenet is looking a little bit more comfortable. We can see him there looking pretty calm and composed as things stand at the moment. We're not used to seeing much emotion from Florent Pagenet under race conditions, only when things get a bit heated. So let's hope that doesn't happen. But you can see as we ride on board with him in that Citroën GT car, very, of course, different to the likes of the more traditional cars, because this is a Vision Gran Turismo machine, essentially. Has actually been made in real life back in 2008, I believe it was, back when GT5 was first released, and great to see it being carried over in Group 4 trim here today as well. That's the good thing about Gran Turismo, the variety of different cars that we get to see, and we've got a wide variety of cars all squabbling for position at the moment. Look at this train of machinery that's lining up behind Scabilia at the moment.
Yes, we've got Mercedes, Lamborghini, BMW, Mazda hanging on in the back there as well. One of those maybe doesn't belong in terms of super duper performance, but Atenza has been very quick around here. That's the beauty of GT4 racing. All these cars are balanced together. Recent balance and performance update as well. All the cars a bit closer, it seems. As we ride on board there with Abraham Hagen for a minute there, and that very bright gold liveried Mazda. You're not going to miss that in a hurry. Mangano and Scabilia getting a little bit close there. Come on, guys, don't get too touchy-feely. You've got to buy each other a drink first, you know what I'm saying? You've got to be careful through here, through the bus stop. Easy on the throttle through there. Even these cars get very sideways. I actually followed Mangano's lap around here earlier. So fast, it's hard to give you the context. Now he's forcing Scabilia to go defensive into the source. Can't really go around the outside there, but he might try and get the cutback on exit. Scabilia drifts it to the inside. That actually allows Coque Lopez to get a bit closer as well. So the Spanish driver getting into the mix. Now they're side by side coming up to Eau Rouge, and we know really with these cars, only one car at a time through here. Who's going to give it up? Mangano looks like he's been the inside. Coque Lopez, there you go. He drives across, and Mangano sideways is trying to get the car turned in. Did not want to give up, and now he's going to lose a place as well to Abraham Hagen, and to add insult to injury, a 0.5-second penalty for cutting the track.
Well, that is a difficult start to the third lap then for Giorgio Mangano. Work to do, and he's of course got that half-second penalty which he will serve next time around as well, or indeed at the end of this lap, and that's going to be very disappointing there for Giorgio Mangano. So right on board with the Italian driver who's now all at sea, and that was very interesting positioning there by Scabilia. I think very fair as well going in towards that source, and look how much it's compromised Giorgio Mangano. Just one simple error has really cost him very dear. Running a little bit deep there in towards Ravage as well is not going to help him. Just needs to keep himself on the back of these guys and just try and regroup, get his focus back more than anything.
So one of the things we have to keep an eye on here is tyre wear. These guys are on the same set of tyres for the entire race. It's times 4 tyre wear around. It doesn't sound like much, but that's essentially 40 laps of Spa on the same set of tyres, and those front tyres at the end of it are going to really be struggling. So you're going to see that. I think people who are maybe being a bit aggressive at the start of the race are going to find themselves at the end of the race really struggling for that front grip, and I think that Mangano maybe already has done a bit of damage to those front tyres, but only time can tell there.
So through in towards Stavelot 1 we go. Baptiste Beauvoir just keeping it consistent, increasing that gap incrementally. 1.2 seconds it now sits out to Thomas Scabilia, so doing a good job righting the wrongs of that difficult Nations Cup race he had last time around. A good recovery, of course, he had in that race. However, wasn't ideal in any way, shape or form for him. And this is a nice return to form here for Beauvoir. We can see him as we ride on board looking pretty calm at the moment, which is good to see. Once he's calm and he's got himself in that rhythm, that is a very good sign indeed. Just looking a little bit further down the order, it looks like Nikita Moisov is putting a bit of pressure onto Florent Pagenet. 9th position is Pagenet, 10th position is Moisov. That'll be Citroën versus Aston Martin. Hopefully we'll get a bit of a look at that a little bit later on. Out of the final corner, out of the bus stop we go to start the next lap, as looks like Dilly is moving up the order as well, with, in fact I say that, moving down the order now as well. Very close between those guys. That's just outside the top 10.
6th place, Malky right now, very, very quick on track. Actually has the fastest lap as well at the moment. And I think now still, actually set another fastest lap that time around at 28.3. And he's gaining onto the back of this little leading pack in that Corvette with Taipei in tow as well. Here we are on board then with Malky in the Corvette C7. Actually drove one of these around Monaco with Super GT Steve Brown. That was a fun excursion, I can tell you that for sure. Not quite as quick as this one though, as we go up towards the Kemmel Straight. Manglo then going to serve that penalty, 0.5 seconds. That's going to bring him back in touch with Malky and maybe giving the slipstream an act as a stepping stone up towards the next set of positions. Something else, by the way, to mention is that the beauty of these superstar races is that anyone can get involved. If you're at home right now with your PS4 thinking, man, this looks fun, I want to have a go, get yourself on sport mode, get yourself into the FIA races, and if you're quick enough, you'll find yourselves in front of me and Tom here, I'm sure, in a few weeks' time.
Christian Malky riding on board with him in that Chevrolet, as you said, Jimmy, just really looking calm and confident. This is great to see for Chevrolet as well, because we've seen them in World Tour events. We saw them in a few last year, but they were always, I think, pretty consistently at the bottom of the timesheets, or there and thereabouts, which is not competitive at all. And it's good to see them running inside the top 10. Malky doing a good job in these opening stages. I wonder if he's pushing a bit too hard though, and what that is going to have an effect on his tyre life towards the end of this race. As you said, Jimmy, tyres will be very important. It's a very front tyre heavy circuit, this one.
Yeah, you're correct, especially for these corners here, you know, the pit path, the triple one as well, which just eats up your front right tyre going through there. And these cars, these front engine cars, are going to struggle more. A lot of the weight's over the front of the car. But they're fairly well balanced because everyone's in the same boat. Everyone's got to keep these tyres alive, and for the Lamborghinis, really, they want to try and focus on their rear tyres more. Here we are on board now, Coco Lopez in that BMW M4, just kind of quietly biding his time at the moment behind Scabia. The M4's been pretty strong here from what we've seen in previous races as well, Tom. So I think he's within a good chance. I mean, he's still within touch with the leaders. He's got Abraham Hagen about a second behind. He's in a good place right now as Coco Lopez. Yeah,
good to see there for Coco Lopez as well. It's important for him really, because we know how competitive Coco can be. He's been very fast. Giorgio Mangano running a bit wide. That's going to allow Melvin Abraham Hagen to come into play here as well as Christian Malky. Side by side we go between the Corvette and the Mazda down towards the first corner. Malky on the inside, later on the brakes, got the inside line. Here comes Tapai, ready to try and take advantage. He shuffles out Melvin Abraham Hagen. It's side by side on corner exit as well as we come on the run down towards Eau Rouge. Is Abraham Hagen going to be able to defend? He's got a good run there, but they're running side by side. Someone's going to have to give up that position, surely, coming in towards Eau Rouge, and it is Abraham Hagen who just backs off momentarily to try and counteract that. He's going to try and get a better run up the top of the hill onto the Kemmel Straight, but the upshot is now that Tapai is ahead into 6th place. In the forefront of his shot, you can see Malky versus Mangano there for P4. This is Corvette versus Lamborghini, side by side down the Kemmel Straight we go. Malky's on the outside line, he's later on the brakes into Les Coubes and through into 4th place. Mangano tries to fight it back, but he can't find a way past there at the moment. Great racing between these two guys.
Beautiful move there by Malky. The long way around at Les Coubes. We don't see that too often, especially not in these GT4 cars. Not as much downforce as the GT3 or the Group 3 cars as we know them. And Malky really on a bit of a charge. In his last lap, again, the fastest lap of the race. He set 3 fastest laps in a row at 27.9 now, so breaking into the 27s. And really, at this rate, if he keeps going, he'll be able to latch onto the back of that top 3 and maybe even challenge for a podium or a win if you're feeling lucky. I'm sure he is. Meanwhile, Coco Lopez is doing the same onto the back of Thomas Scabilia, getting that a little bit closer. Now, what do you do if you're Coco Lopez? Do you try and push and get by? Maybe burn those tyres a little bit? Is it worth doing that to get onto the back of Baptiste Beauvoir? Or do you wait? Do you wait for the other guys to do the same thing and then try and pass at the end where it'll be a bit easier? This is the thing that's going to be going through your head right now if you're driving, coming out of Stavlo 2. Nice draft up the hill towards Blanchimont now, and another lap down, but these top three looking very fast, and I'm sure they'll be aware too that Malky's coming.
I'm just thinking of Malky, so I was having a look at some of his stats here as well, just to put it into perspective, because he might not be a name that's particularly familiar to you, at least in the top 16 Superstars events. In the Gran Turismo Championships races, he's done 1,288 of them. He's had 856 top 5 finishes. He's won 488 races. That's an incredible number of statistics, and he is looking very competent indeed here. Here is Scabilia soaking up that pressure like a sponge from Coque Lopez. Is he going to be on the back foot in the latter half of this race? We're now on to lap 6, so we're now into the second half effectively of this one, and this is where tyres is going to get very interesting over the next couple of laps or so, especially into the closing stages of this one. Look how close Coque Lopez cuts the wall there. A little bit of an opposite lock on the exit of La Source, but he's still very, very much in the hunt for second position and potentially trying to challenge Baptiste Beauvoir before too long here. The thing is, if these guys start squabbling, that is going to be Christmas come early for the Swede of Malky, because he'll be able to just close up a little bit. Oh, a moment there for Scabilia coming over Rouge and Radion there.
Something fun to say that even with going around the outside of Mangano, Malky was quicker than the three drivers ahead of him at the moment, but now he's giving a big old draft to Giorgio Mangano, who seems to be maybe pushing him along a little bit. I think I might have seen a bump there, may have just been imagining things, but of course it's only ever going to help out Malky, and maybe Mangano's thinking, you know what, we aren't going to catch these guys if we squabble. Maybe I've got to push you along a little bit, help you get up towards these. But the place where Malky is quick, if we look at his sectors from what I can see, it's through the middle. He's quicker through the middle than all the guys ahead of him, not by much, but by a little bit, and that's where he needs to be quick and needs to push on. Of course, if you're quick through the middle sector, that usually means you're pushing those front tyres hard, and that could come back to haunt him towards the end of the race.
So then, this is getting very interesting. What an exciting manufacturer series race we've got for the EMEA region. Round 16 it is, I remind you. We're now at the halfway stage, and as Jimmy said earlier on, if you fancy getting yourself involved in this action, do it. Get yourself onto Gran Turismo Sport, click on Sport Mode, all the info you need is on there, and you never know, you could be racing in this next time out in the FIA GT Championships. But look at Lopez, just keeping that pressure at a constant here on Scabilia, and I think that's a huge credit to Scabilia as well, because he's just put that car exactly where the Spaniard has not wanted him to. Great respect between them, great composure as well from Scabilia to just not crack under pressure, not make that mistake that Lopez is trying to force him into for now.
Tell you what, Lopez will now be thinking, right, I need to get by now, because Baptiste Beauvoir is starting to pull away. It's only a second, it's not much, but he's going to be breaking that draft very soon, which means that he'll start being more difficult to catch. Here we are again, back 4th and 5th, Mangano and Malky. These guys seemingly working together at the moment. A little bit of bumping going on. The gap still 2.2 seconds between the Corvette in front and the M4 of Coque Lopez. So not quite there at the moment, but threatening to be. This is going to be an interesting finale here, because these guys in front in second and third really need to start getting a move on if they don't want to be caught by this group behind.
Hard on the brakes we go, in towards La Source once again. Let's see what is going to happen then. I think they are going to catch up before too long. The man who was fastest last time around, fastest lap over the entire race, a 2:27.673, was Adam Tapai, the man who's in 6th position. You can just see him there in the background of your shot in the Ford Mustang. He's right on the back now of this battle for 4th place between Malky and Mangano, and he could be ready to upset the party and potentially disrupt their charge to the podium. Let's see what's going to happen as we come over onto the Kemmel Straight once more. Well, the thing is, if they does start coming in to join the party, does Adam Tapai, these guys are going to need that like a third armpit. On the brakes we go, in towards Les Combes, riding on board here with Giorgio Mangano. Just keeping calm and smooth at the moment. Good job from Malky to, again, be soaking up that pressure and not be making too many mistakes. These guys working together very well indeed, but I dread to think what's going through the mind of Giorgio Mangano, because it's such a difficult position to be in when you're trying to attack the driver in front but defend from another driver close behind as well.
Yeah, I mean, he put himself there with the penalty, I think, just trying to fight too hard with Coque Lopez earlier on, so he'll be probably ruining that choice as well. But you're seeing there out of no name, or I guess it's called X now, isn't it? I keep forgetting that. Malky just has a better exit. Just managed to get a couple of attempts on Mangano, but then again, on the way into Pouhon, Mangano's able to get the car rotated, a bit of a perk of that mid-engine Lamborghini, and get it turned in a bit better than Malky is. So we're in a situation right now where these guys can't get by each other. And in the background, or I guess foreground, Coque Lopez and Thomas Scabilia are just getting more and more fighty. Coco Lopez, I think, is really now starting to understand he needs to get by, almost pushing Scabilia there for the first part of Stavrio. Now, let's see what kind of legs this M4 has in a straight line. He needs to be getting past Scabilia soon. There we are now, on the ball, on the bumper cam on Coco Lopez. That's the speed from his angle is fantastic, and just not quite able to keep with that Lambo, even with the draft.
Oh, well, very interesting indeed there for Coco Lopez, and Beauvoir's got a 7/8 of a second advantage. Meanwhile, Mangano is against Malky, then coming towards the bus-stop chicane. Is he going to try and pull out and launch one up the inside and send it through? Malky's going to go defensive, surely. No, not quite, no, so he's comfortable just sitting there like that, and if Mangano wants to attack, that's on him. The thing is, if Mangano does attack, it could fall him into the clutches of Tapai there, so very smart driving actually there from the Italian. But 8 laps done, 2 laps now remain here at Spa. And I think it's going to be a little bit too little too late for Malky to close up on the battle for the podium. 2.3 seconds it is. Clearly he doesn't have the pace in the latter stages, so despite having that real and promising pace in the early few laps of this one, it's just dropped off a little bit. He's not able to bridge that gap to Lopez in third.
Probably burn those tyres a bit at this point, which we kind of knew might happen if you're pushing hard. What they need now, this sort of kind of chasing group, is they need the Coco Lopez and Scabilia to have a little bit of a fight, or to have Baptiste Beauvoir come back into the fray a little bit. And we actually have a driver cam on Beauvoir, but we'll go to that in a second as Mangano looks up the inside of Malky. I think he's tired of waiting. The move is done just like that, and Malky doesn't really fight it. I say that, he's still there. I think he could have done without fighting that, to be honest, because look what that's done to the gap. Straight away up to 2.8 seconds where it was 2.5, 2.2. And they really have to put them a bit further back. Meanwhile, here is Baptiste Beauvoir, our leader, looking very kind of calm and collected right now in that very recognisable driving position where he's kind of bolt upright next to the wheel. I have no idea how that's comfortable, but it's obviously working for him, given that he's out here right now in first place. Background, Coco Lopez is looking at Thomas Scabilia again, but just can't quite find the way through there.
So, Coco Lopez, what have you got in the tank? Have you got anything to get past Scabilia? The thing is, of course, Scabilia is well within slipstream range of Beauvoir in front. We know that Lamborghini's got good legs on it. He's trying to force the Frenchman into a mistake, but the thing is, the Frenchman just isn't making those mistakes at the moment. He's looking calm and confident and just comfortable, as he has done throughout the entirety of this race. In terms of the lap time, these guys very similar, just a couple of hundredths of a second separating them last time around in terms of their times, so clearly working very well together. Beauvoir is very impressive in that middle sector. Every time that gap comes down to a few tenths of a second, it just increases in the latter half of the lap, up to 8 or 9 tenths of a second. That just allows the pressure to be taken off him a little bit.
Yeah, he's got half a second on Scabilia for the middle sector as Beauvoir at the moment, so really needing to get that down. But here's where the Lamborghini shines in a straight line, so quick down the straight, so quick in fact the M4, even with the draft, can't keep with it. And all of a sudden, Baptiste Beauvoir seems a little bit closer, but the exit there of the AMG just very, very strong. But Scabilia matching it, I think, and now they're starting to both pull up to the back of Baptiste Beauvoir. So we come on now to the penultimate lap. Can they catch the leader?
This is the crucial question, and we're about to find out the answer in a couple of laps' time here at Spa-Francorchamps. So Beauvoir doing a good job of just holding on at the moment. You can see two very definitive groups of 3 cars of Beauvoir, Scabilia and Lopez squabbling for third position. Mangano, Malky and Tapai squabbling for 4th place in this race. Valerio Gallo, you can see the left-hand side of your screen, has been given a penalty for one reason or another. That red dot flashing next to his name. Not sure how much that penalty is for, if it's half a second or a second. Regardless, it is probably going to cost him a position to Nikita Moitov, potentially Melvin Abraham Hagen in 9th place there as well. Here comes Malky darting to the inside of Mangano, down the Kemal straight in towards Lake Combs. Side by side we go. Later on the brakes there for Malky, so he repays the favour that Giorgio Mangano did to him last time around, and he's now back through to 4th.
These guys, of course, going out to the end now. I think they know they can't catch the top 3, so they're all going to just fight over the best position they can possibly get, which right now is 4th position. Meanwhile, at the front of the field as well, it's getting closer and closer between Beauvoir and Scabilia. Half a second now between the 2nd place and 3rd, and Coco Lopez still there. They're all starting to bunch up as we get towards the end of the race. But as you said, Tom, this is where Beauvoir is strong. He's quick for his little sector, and the gap will come down to about half a second. But then, as soon as you go through Pouillon, you can see Beauvoir just pulling away as we go through the long left hand of the Lamborghini, just starting to give up, I think, at the front. And Coco Lopez, again, just like maybe frustration now. He's just forced to sit behind Scabilia through this stuff. And he's a lot quicker in that M4, but he can't do anything about it. And then come to straight, he just gets absolutely gapped by that Huracan.
So then, this is getting very exciting indeed. It's just been a tension-filled race, this one, hasn't it, from start to finish, and it's just continuing onwards now. Abraham Hagen and Gallo are going hammer and tong for 8th place as well, a little bit further down the order. Those two separated by the smallest of margins and exchanging positions more often than you'd expect. Now, Malky's got a half-second penalty here as well, and that is going to cost him very dearly indeed. It could, and probably will, if the gap continues as it is, relegate him down to 6th position on the final lap of the race. So he's really going to have to pull his finger out and try and invent something to get back past, and it's really put him on the back foot, potentially disrupted his rhythm a little bit here and caused his concentration to lapse ever so slightly, meaning he has to go defensive in towards the bus stop chicane. Here comes Tapai on the inside of Mangano as a gap just appears. Mangano's wise to that though, holds firm for now.
He's just burnt his tyres, Malky, and now he's just holding on for dear life, and unfortunately that 0.5-second penalty actually sent off probably is going to mean that he is going to have to give up this 4th place, but we're on board with Tapai as we come down to La Source. He goes a little bit wide there and misses the entry ever so slightly, and then see Malky just doing his best to try and break the top of Mangano straight there, darting behind. And of course, as we go over the rise, we're going to get to the penalty line. The brakes will go on for Malky, only for 0.5 per second, but it's gonna be pretty much the game, set and match for Mangano and Tapai. See, again, just trying to break the draft, desperately trying to get rid of some of that gap, but it's going to all be for naught. There's the 0.5-second penalty. Through goes Mangano. Will Tapai get through too? He's got the momentum. Mangano's there. Tapai looks to the outside. Malky cannot defend, and down to 6th he goes.
Well, let's see if he can do anything in the latter half of this lap here for Malky. Either way, that is a big shame because he's been very impressive so far here.
1st, 2nd, 3rd. Covered by only 0.8 of a second at the moment, the closest they've been at this point. We know Beauvoir is quick for the middle sector, but does Skibilia have anything left in the tank? Can Coque Lopez invent something to try and get by? Finally, he's been stuck there the entire race, but otherwise 1st, 2nd, 3rd, they are any picture. That's just how close it is through the last half of the lap here at Spa. Coque Lopez, a good run through the exit of Pouon, but he's not going to have the run coming down to the French chicane. On board now with the BMW. Look how much closer he gets on the brakes. Look how hard the Spaniard's trying, but he just can't quite get the car to turn in. Those front tyres are toast at this point, and it's looking less and less likely that Coque Lopez is going to get anything done.
You can sense that something's going to happen into the bus stop chicane, can't you, if Coque Lopez can get the run there on Thomas Skibilia. But the Frenchman gets a great exit coming out of Stavelot too, and is that just going to be enough for him to hold firm in 2nd position? Well, let's see what happens then. Beauvoir, I think, has got this one sewn up. He's got just enough of an advantage over Thomas Skibilia to not worry about an imminent attack from behind, but Lopez there, even with the slipstream, is struggling to do anything, and I think it's just going to be a bridge too far there for Coque Lopez. Either way, a hugely impressive performance from all 3 drivers who are going to finish on the podium here. Baptiste Beauvoir comes into the final corner and out of it now to take the checkered flag in the Manufacturers Series race here for the EMEA region. Skibilia comes home in 2nd. Lopez finishes in 3rd place. Mangano is going to finish in 4th ahead of Tapai in 5th. Malky with that penalty right at the very end there will finish 6th. And look at that as Gallo runs wide out of the final corner. I wonder if he ran out of fuel towards the end there because he was crawling over the line and finishes a dejected 11th place. Grady versus Rodriguez was 13th to the line. The Spaniard finishing ahead of the Briton.
Yeah, nice little, only a small reserve celebration there from Baptiste Beauvoir, but he was definitely feeling the pressure towards the end. Half a second, or just about a second, between 1st, 2nd and 3rd, and I've got to say, that format, the no strategy change, nothing like that, no tyre change, really worked out for our guys. And of course, our winner, Baptiste Beauvoir, for Mercedes-Benz, a great race for him.
You can see the final results on your screen. Baptiste Beauvoir finishes ahead of Thomas Skibilia by half a second. Coque Lopez tried as hard as he could, but 3rd was all he could get at the checkered flag, ahead of Mangano and Tapai in the top 5. Malky, Noisov, then Abraham Hagen, Pangenet, Moussen inside the top 10. Gallo, Villa, Rodriguez, Grady and Dilly complete our 15 finishers in that Manufacturer Series race. With that said, let's go and speak, shall we, to Baptiste Beauvoir after that impressive performance. So, Baptiste, after taking that win, you're in the top 2 positions in the Manufacturers Series and you're number 1 in the nation's standings. How does it feel to be on top in the European region?
I saw that. I got the same point than Mikel. I can see it just now. Well, that's good. That's good. I took that be behind Mikel anyway about a point point to win tonight, but that's good. I will try to defend now my place against Mikel. Of course, it's gonna be hard. I know the pace of Mikel is definitely one of the best drivers in the world for me. That's good, and that's good for Mercedes. It's good.
I've got to ask, because we have the camera on you, of course, when you're driving. And although it wasn't during the race, before the race, I saw you with a baguette, just having a little munch.
Yes, yes, I got it. I always eat.
Is this some sort of pre-race thing?
I always eat a baguette before the race for try to get some energy, positive energy. So you can see I already eat the baguette a little. And if you want, you can eat too. You want?
So that's the secret, is it?
How to be fast on Gran Turismo Sport. All you need is a baguette. And, well, a Baptiste Beauvoir helps. Baptiste, hugely impressive performances here today. Very well done. Great to chat to you. And we look forward to seeing you racing next time.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Let's take a look and see how that race result changes things in the Manufacturer Series standings. Well, you can see that Baptiste Beauvoir now effectively inherits the lead from Mikael Hazal, tied on points, those two drivers. So that is going to set things up to be very exciting in the second half of the online season. You can see there Thomas Gabidia in third position ahead of Valerio Gallo. Coque Lopez tied on points with the Italian for fourth place as well. A little bit further down the order, looking pretty close between a few drivers. Exciting to see how things are going to change and what is going to happen in the second half of the 2020 FIA Gran Turismo Championships. Well, some unbelievable racing in the Top 16 Superstars event for the EMEA region here for the FIA Gran Turismo Championships. Jimmy Broadbent, some absolutely brilliant action from start to finish in the Nations Cup and indeed in the Manufacturer Series, as we just saw as well. I've got to ask you, as I always do, what is your moment of the race? What is your moment of the evening, the event, whatever you want to call it?
I'm tempted to say you put me on the spot now, but I'm going to say instead that I think just the entirety of the Manufacturers race, I think that new format with the no stop and the hard compound tires around a circuit like Spa, where slipstream is quite important, I think it was damn awesome. So, how about you, Tom? What was your moment of the race?
Nobody ever asked me. I've never felt so wanted in my entire life, Jimmy. Thanks very much. Now, my moment of the race, I have to say, my moment of the evening must have been Baptiste Beauvoir's comeback, I think, in the Nations Cup race. Everything was against him in those first few laps, and he just really pulled it around and didn't let it phase him. Hugely impressive stuff, really, more than anything. And we saw exactly what that Manufacturer Series event win meant to him just a few moments ago. So I'm really excited to see exactly what he's going to be able to do in the future for the FIA GT Championships. Speaking of the future of the FIA GT Championships, we're back, of course, on the 5th of July for round 20. It's going to be really exciting, so I hope you can join us there. From Jimmy Broadbent and from myself, Tom Brooks, thanks very much for joining us for this time, and we'll see you then.